Hello there, and welcome to Fire Engineering Blog Talk Radio in this installment of the Professional Volunteer Fire Department, the podcast dedicated to our great volunteer fire service, always focusing on the issues and challenges and timely topics, all involving our volunteer fire service. Remember, folks, developing, displaying, and maintaining a professional image and reputation are the duty and responsibility of all of us, and true professionalism is defined not by a paycheck, but by our very real examples of service and dedication and competency, courtesy and compassion. Tom Merrill here, so glad to have you listening in this evening. Just back from the great FDIC conference, which of course is always a great week spent in Indianapolis. Just about 35,000 sisters and brothers there this year, and gotta tell you, it never disappoints. It was simply another awesome experience on so many different levels, and I really want to thank Chief Bobby Halton and Diane Rothschild and Ginger and all the other wonderful people at Clarion Events, Penwell, Fire Engineering, all of them who worked to put on this great, just amazing conference. And, you know, there's so much going on there. It's such a packed week, but there's the training, second to none. And even though I go as a presenter, I'm also there to learn. So I go to classes because when you stop learning, it's time to retire from this great fire service of ours. So I took in so many great classes covering a broad spectrum of topics. That's another thing, folks, with FDIC. There is something for everybody. Topics covering the broad spectrum of our fire service, and all of them have great top-notch instructors. The first class I took back on Monday, Commercial Building Fires, that was with Dan Shaw. He's a chief from Fairfax County. Doug Mitchell, a captain with the FDNY. A very informative pre-conference workshop, a 4-hour pre-conference workshop, and I have pages and pages of notes from that. And actually, both Chief Shaw and Captain Mitchell delivered keynote addresses at the conference, which were very, very well received and had a lot of great information in them. So that was a great start to the week for me. And another 4-hour conference workshop that I took in was with the legendary and certainly never disappointing retired Miami-Dade Captain Bill Gustin, who talked about fire company officer development. Another 4-hour class, easily could have gone another 4 hours on top of that because he had just so much practical experience, years and years of experience to pass on. He's been there, he's done that, and he wanted to share as much as he could in the time that he had. And again, I got pages of notes from that class as well, and maybe someday I'll schedule him. I had some great conversations with Captain Gustin in the speaker's room, out in the hallway, and in the classroom as well. And, I have his card. I'm going to reach out to him. I'd like to get him on the show someday and pass on some of his experiences to you, the listener. My 4-hour pre-conference workshop was on Tuesday. I had another great experience with it. Had a great group in the room, great discussion about the Professional Volunteer Fire Department, and I even walked away with some notes and additions to plug into my next presentation because people are always sharing with me some of the things that I never thought of and some of the things they're doing that define professionalism and some of their experiences. So I took notes in my own class to bring home and tweak and work on future presentations because there's always something to add. So just a great beginning to the week with these 4-hour workshops. And of course, then there's the hour and 45-minute classroom sessions. And I went to as many of those as I could as well. I had to juggle between doing my podcast live from FDIC and some other responsibilities I had while I was there, and actually including working on a video. We did video recordings for some upcoming fire engineering training programs that are in development. So it was a busy week with that type of stuff, but I still had time to go to a lot of classes. Let me think. Fully Involved, The Deliberate Leader with Mark Van Oppen. Training as a way to reduce risk in the volunteer fire service, which was a great class focusing on putting together a training program for volunteer firefighters. And that was taught by Joe Netter, who, by the way, received the Fire Engineering IFSI George D. Post Instructor of the Year Award. I'm sitting in this class. I'm like, where do I know this name? Where do I know this name? I've heard of him, but I know this week they've been talking about him. Boom, then it dawned on me when I was looking in my program catalog that he was receiving the Trainer of the Year Award, which just was awesome. And when I went to his class, I could tell you I can understand why he won it. It's just a great program. And actually, I actually talked to him too about coming on a future podcast, and to talk about the training programs that could be put together in our volunteer firehouses, because we need to ensure our members are getting the training they need, but also the training they deserve, because they're giving up an evening or they're giving up their time to go to the firehouse for a training drill. So Joe had some great ideas on how to make that time spent at the firehouse on training as relevant as it could be, so people walk away being as well trained as possible. Good stuff by Joe Netter, and congrats to him for receiving his award as well. Took in other great classes. Another one focusing specifically on the volunteer fire service was titled Saving the Volunteer Fire Department by Chris Hine from the Rockville, Maryland Volunteer Fire Department. And he discussed ideas that could be implemented to help any volunteer department out and get the most out of their members and hopefully recruit new members and start them off in the right direction. He had an in-depth discussion on his department's duty staffing program, which basically ensures duty personnel are at the firehouse every single night. It works really well for his department, and he reviewed models that would work for big departments, small departments, maybe busy departments, and not so busy departments. And I love what he said. One of the things I took in the pages of notes again from that class is failure is not an option. When people call 911 and ask for help, they expect it to arrive, and we have to show up. And his department's program is making it work in his area, and he was excited to bring that information to Indianapolis. And again, another topic I'm jotting down for future programs that we can invite him on to talk about it with you as well. I took in a class on fighting private dwelling fires by the great Jim Duffy, who you know has a podcast on fire engineering. A lot of great information, and private dwelling fires are where most firefighters and civilians get hurt and killed. So he had some great tips and information on what we can do to be more proficient there, and took a class on mastering the pump panel and just so many others, covering a wide range of topics, but again, all relevant to us as firefighters. It was an extremely packed week, and the few minutes I spent with you so far doesn't even include the trade show. This trade show floor that's packed with all the latest and greatest tools and equipment. I saw LA's new electric fire truck. That was the talk of the show. And it's probably the future, though, for sure. And it was interesting to see it. It was amazing to hear about the research and development that went into the design. And it was really amazing to see it firsthand. So let's see what the future holds, because I bet you we're going to see more of them. And, every time something's new, sometimes people say that'll never take off, and then in 10 years you see it and don't even blink an eye because it's so common. So it's very interesting to see LA's new fire engine that's an electric vehicle. And Chief Halton, of course, he knocked it out of the park as he always does with his spectacular keynote address welcoming everybody to the conference. Always passionate, always poignant, a great tribute to firefighters everywhere who put in the effort, the sweat, the toil. They withstand the dangers and obstacles and do whatever needs to be done to help those in need, because, as he says, you were worth it. Just another outstanding keynote address by Chief Halton. Just another spectacular FDIC experience. If you've never been, please consider it. And if you've been, you know what I'm saying is so true. And I could go on even more. You all know how I feel about FDIC. But one last highlight for me, and it probably was the highlight of the week for me. I had a great time with my brothers and sisters from my own department, the Snyder Fire Department. We did some tremendous bonding and shared the brotherhood that we love. But one last highlight for me, and one of the biggest ones of the week, was honoring one of my biggest mentors, a man who really has had a tremendous impact on me. He's opened up doors for me and has extended his friendship to me. As Chief John Salka. He received the Fire Engineering Lifetime Achievement Award, and I was just so happy for him. It's just so well deserving. I was so happy to see him up on stage with his family to receive it, and was so just he means the world to me. He has done so much for me, and I was honored to be asked to share in his celebration that night, and sat at the table with his family and close friends, and we just had a great time celebrating his great accomplishment. And I want to thank him for inviting me to share in that evening. I want to congratulate him again because it was so well deserved. And thanks, Chief, for everything you do for our great fire service. One other thing about FDIC, and I was asked to share this, is I haven't said much on this show because I really didn't know if it was going to happen. I still pinch myself that it is, but at next year's FDIC 2023, they're telling me that the book I've been working on, I don't know if you know it or not, but I am doing a book, The Professional Volunteer Fire Department for Penwell, and we're hoping to have it released by FDIC next year. And they asked me to start talking about it, so here I am talking about it. I spent some time with my editor, some Penwell representatives over at the book signing booth, and we're on track for next year. So I'll be looking for that. I'm so excited. I can't believe it. But they asked me to put together a book based on my experiences talking to people like you, my articles that I've written. So by next year at FDIC, there should be on the shelf the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. I'll keep you posted over the next year on the progress, but it's mostly done. Just submitting the final photos now, and hopefully we'll be seeing you next year, signing a book for you, the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. So very honored to be asked to do something like this. And folks, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm talking to people like you, and you're giving me information. You're talking to me and giving me ideas, sharing stories. That's what's leading to this. So thank you to all my listeners and all the people who reach out to me, because I can't do it without you as well. And one last thing, it's finally up. I've talked about it for over a year now. My website is up live now, the Professional Volunteer Fire Department.com or the pvfd.com. So I think that's a shorter way to do it. Either one will take you to it, but the PVD for Professional Volunteer Fire Department.com. You can spell it out if you want. But please check it out. I have links to all my articles, podcasts, presentations that I'm offering. It's got a list of all those. It's got a list of my upcoming events and conferences that I'll be attending. It only took me 10 years to get a website done, but it's up, it's live. I'd appreciate it if you check it out. And thank you for listening in. And now on to the show. So, on this episode of the Professional Volunteer Fire Department, we're going to continue down the recruitment and retention road. And we're going to bring in some volunteer firefighters who have experienced success in both of these areas, recruitment and retention. And we're going to talk to them about what has worked for them and maybe what didn't work as well. The issues and the challenges are certainly well documented. There's very few volunteer departments that aren't hurting from members in some way or have experienced most of us have experienced a decline in volunteerism, that's for sure. And I saw some stats recently. The most recent stats from the National Volunteer Fire Protection Association and National Volunteer Fire Council list about 682,600 firefighters being on the roster back around 2017. And that was down from 814,850 volunteer firefighters in 2015 and 729,000 firefighters in 2016. So that downward trend is certainly continuing. And along with that downward trend, we're seeing an aging volunteer workforce. I know I've mentioned a few times on this show, our average age is about 51. Maybe we can ask our guest tonight what their average age is. Ours is about 51. And it's also well documented that there's a big demand for service. The demands for services, all types of service, aren't going down either. And I know, looking at our guest department, their demands for service have certainly increased in their history. So very common themes shared among volunteer departments everywhere. And along with all those challenges, there's the very real problem of just keeping members. So we have an aging workforce. We have less members than we had. And then when we do get members, let's throw in another challenge, and that's keeping these members active and on the rolls. And there's a lot of people that actually view retention as being the bigger challenge, a bigger challenge in recruitment. And, there's so many variables to keeping people, many of them out of our control, right? If someone gets a job promotion, but hey, to move up the food chain and get a better job, you got to leave the area. Well, that's certainly the volunteer fire department's going to take a back seat if that opportunity comes along. And sometimes it's just the demands of life and family responsibilities. And then there's also the very real demand, or the very real challenge, of dealing with burnout. And all of those can prove difficult to deal with and lead to a retention issue. But even if the department's doing okay and they've got a strong roster and they're keeping members for many different reasons, they're doing a lot of good things. The other area I want to talk with our guests about tonight is building morale and maintaining pride in the department and getting all members to be proud volunteer firefighters. I mean, I think we all want to be proud. does anyone really want to join a department just to say this place sucks? Or does anyone join a department with that on their mind, that this is really going to suck? I hate it. I don't think so. But somehow, sometimes our members can lose that pride they had when they first joined, and maybe they become a bit disgruntled. And it's actually the topic of another presentation I've been offering, and it's about building and increasing morale in the volunteer firehouse. It's part of it is what I like to call house pride, having strong house pride. And if we have strong house pride and our members are highly motivated and engaged, it can help recruit additional members. I mean, disgruntled or disenchanted or upset members really can't be counted on to recruit new members, right? So I brought some guests on with me tonight who belong to a firehouse that has a decent membership, a pretty robust membership. It definitely has a strong sense of house pride because I witnessed it firsthand. It was palpable to me the minute I walked into the firehouse back in September. It was back in September that I was invited to the Pennsylvania Firefighters Convention. They hosted this conference, the Limerick Fire Department in Pennsylvania, and I spent a few days there, and I got to meet many of their members and enjoy their very, very kind hospitality. But what impressed me from the minute I walked in is everyone I talked to, you could just tell they were proud to be a member of the department. And that's whether they were a newer member, a veteran member, a probie, an officer, the chief. Everybody exuded department pride. So before I left, I talked to them all about it. What did they do to create this pride and maintain the pride? We talked about how did they get a decent membership. You don't often see that today. And we talked about a lot of different things that I knew I wanted to get some of their members on the show to talk about, because once they started telling me some of these things, it's not rocket science, folks, but we struggle in all of these areas in the volunteer fire service. So I wanted you, the listeners, to hear again what they have to say about these topics. It's not like they don't have challenges like the rest of us. It's not like there's some, magic force that they're from that came down from outside the universe that, hey, we're going to be the perfect volunteer fire department. No, it's not that at all. It's just how they do things, how they treat people, how they run their organization, their organizational philosophy. I think that's what sets them apart and might be responsible for the success that they have experienced over the years. And this actually fits perfectly into our show's theme here over the past several episodes. If you've been listening, you know we have been talking about recruitment and retention and maintaining strong membership. And we've had guests on the last several shows who have shared their ideas and their experiences. And we continue with that on this episode because I just knew I had to have these folks on. And they may share some ideas and talk about things we've already talked about. But hey, what does that mean? It works. So let's welcome them on board. And I'm proud to introduce the proud professional firefighters from the Limerick Fire Department, which is located in the great state of Pennsylvania. I believe it's Royersford, Pennsylvania, if I said that right, gentlemen, which is not too far from Philadelphia. So let me welcome Lieutenant and Vice President Scott Miles, President Tom Walters, and Chief of Department Kem Schuler onto the show. Gentlemen, finally, we did it. We've been trying to arrange dates and times for several months now. So thank you for agreeing to be on the show and arranging your schedules and making it work out here this evening. I truly appreciate it. Chief, I'll start with you. Thank you for being here this evening. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to our listeners, and then we'll go on to the president and then the vice president. Give us a little background about yourself and what brought you into the fire service.
So thank you very much, first off, for taking time with us. So I've been in the service for about 42 years. I ran with several different departments, been with Limerick now for 25 years. This is my 16th year as chief here.
Wow.
I can tell you just the overall environment here at Limerick over the last many years, a couple decades. I know Tom was chief before myself, the president Tom, which you'll meet in a second. But the overall environment here has just been one that wants to grow and mature and just do 100% committed to the community. So it's easy in a sense to say that you want to be a part of the department. I think the way that we collectively as the board and the officers have designed and built the department, I think that the members have adapted very well, and they're that's where we get our energy is from the members, to be honest with you. They all want to be a part of it. They've all taken pieces of it. They ran with the pieces. We'll talk about recruitment and retention in a little bit, I'm sure, but I think you hit it on the head. You get happy members, and they want to go out. They want to recruit. They want to bring people in. And I got to tell you, we've put many programs in place to recruit. We've put many programs in place for retention. It's not cheap. We spend a lot of money on it. We spend a lot of time and effort on it. So to be honest with you, it takes the whole department to make it happen. And I think, like I said, between the board and the officers, we've given a lot of direction, and the members have just ran with it. And it's a wonderful environment. It really is. It really is good.
42 years ago you joined, huh, Chief? Just yesterday.
42 years, yes. And actually my 14-year-old who just joined, my youngest, is downstairs, and he's very excited. I got to tell you, it's funny because I see him doing things that I can see myself doing when I first joined. So it's funny to see that contrast from 42 years ago.
Oh, that's amazing. And if you don't mind my asking, what got you into the fire service? Are you first generation or other?
No, actually, growing up, my father was a police officer. He ran with the fire department, and he also ran with ambulance. And then he was also worked at the county dispatch center. So we've been around the emergency services and communications since we were born. And actually, when I got out of high school, I went right to work for the communications center, which in turn over years became the 911 center because it was before 911. And so I was at the county for 20 years. And I ended the county. I was the director of 911. So it was actually a pretty cool run through the county for 20 years. But so literally, we've been around since I was born. And for the last 42 years, I'm part of the fire service myself.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. It's something we have in common, the 911 center. I think we talked about it when I was there in your town back in September. So that's still what I'm doing. So awesome. What a great journey that's still going strong. Thanks, Chief. And President Walters, well, tell us a little bit. You're you born and raised in the area, right? And you're a second or third generation member there. What is it?
Yeah, I'm third generation, and my daughter is a fourth generation.
Wow.
in the fire department. My grandfather was a charter member, and then my dad never was involved with the fire department. He'd support it, but my uncle was also involved with the fire department, president, engineer, board of director, everything like that. And I'm in my 45th year with the fire service, and I was literally raised right down the street from the firehouse, and my grandparents lived down the street from the firehouse, and I would run up here as a little kid or run out the door every time, I'd hear the fire whistle blow or hear the trucks go. And then my grandfather would bring me around to the firehouse, and whether it was our ham and oyster supper to raise money or whether it was, another event, I would always get a chance to, help out, as a teenager. We didn't have a juniors program. So I joined at age 18, and that was 1976. And that was the first year we ran 50 fire calls. And now this year we're going to be pushing 750 probably. So it's been a big change. Just when you look at apparatus, that's changed. But the one thing I think that has helped us along the recruitment and retention process is we got involved with our township forefathers early on, going back to 1992. And it was in my second year as chief, and we were able to talk to township supervisors into putting a fire tax in place. And even to this day, I pay, like my own fire tax that I pay is $61 a year. Okay, back then it was probably maybe like $20 a year, 30 years ago. But what that did in Pennsylvania, we're a second-class township, so the township can go up to 3 mills without going to referendum for a fire tax, and that basically helped us because we were growing. They just put the US 422 expressway in, roughly a mile and a half from the firehouse. And that was when Limerick Township really started to grow. I think when I took over as chief, we had roughly, when I went to college, there was 3,500 in the township. When I became chief, there was about between 7,000 and 8,000. And now we're pushing 21,000, 22,000 right now. And geographically, we're the second largest municipality in Montgomery County. We're almost 24 square miles. And, that expansion and growth was, infinitesimal with what it did to emergency services. And we were able to get involved with the township early. We've always had a good relationship with the township supervisors, and the funding has always been there. We've had to ask for it. They didn't always. They're not going to offer it to you, so to speak, until you ask for it. But we documented it, and
Yeah.
it's everything that there's a lot of accountability with it. Which, as a taxpayer, you want accountability with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you've been able to, the departments, you've been able to change with the times, which is awesome. I mean, gosh, when you join and there's 70 something calls and now you're up to almost 800 calls, and you guys have really rolled with the changes and worked with the town, which is, you've seen a lot. So that's definitely a good thing that we're going to talk about. And Scott, the vice president, you've bounced around from department to department, haven't you? I think you're a New Yorker, aren't you?
I started out in New York,
Yeah.
that lovely state. But you see, I was a little further north than you. I grew up like outside of Watertown, Fort Drum up there. I started a small little department, probably about 300 people in the entire town. So everybody kind of knew everybody. So I've been in since 1984. So that puts me around like 38 years, somewhere in that neighborhood total. Ended up getting my essentials of firefighting back there. Ended up going to Oklahoma State, graduating there with their fire protection and safety program. Moved in out here to the Philadelphia area outside of Collegeville, just a couple towns down from Limerick, and joined up there. And went up through the ranks there from firefighter up to battalion chief, and needed to move to the country a little bit, so to say, because, as Tom said, it wasn't that populated back then, and
Yeah.
moved out and ended up joining here in 1997, and basically kind of worked my way up through the ranks again.
Wow.
From firefighter up to battalion chief before the two departments here merged, and then currently now serving as lieutenant and second vice president here.
Yeah, I just want to point out to the listeners too that you are at the firehouse right now, so I'm dying for a call to come in. I want to hear the noise.
Your interview may be cut short.
They're in the
You'll hear
boardroom.
it though.
Yeah, in the boardroom at the firehouse, which is really cool. I appreciate that, and like I said, we'll see if the call comes in, and we'll certainly understand if you have to run. One thing I did want to talk about, and Chief, I don't know if you'd be the one to talk about it or any one of you, but I want to maybe do a show someday with you, a separate topic about successful mergers. But Limerick had to see a merger take place, correct? You had two different fire companies.
Yep.
And I know when I was there, you talked to me a little bit about it, but it was what, Limerick and Linfield, I believe, fire company. And there was a need to merge, right? And that had to present some challenges. Like I said, that'd be a great topic for another show, but does someone just want to talk briefly about that and what led to that? And
So it's actually, we could do it in a small version here, but when you have two departments in a township the size of ours, there's a lot of things. Number one is you're fighting for the same membership, right? You only have so many residents. Number two is you usually find there's a lot of equipment duplication. There's always going to be battles against the two for, let's just call it who's headstrong. But the thing about Limerick, which is pretty unique, is we have a outstanding municipal government structure here, and they recognize most of what I just said, and they strongly encouraged the merger. Limerick was, and something that Tom touched on. We have had a tremendous growth here in the township over the last 20 years, and well, more than that, 30 years. But that most of that growth was really towards us out here in this side of the township. So our membership was growing, and the Linfield necessarily wasn't as much. So it really was, a couple handfuls of members there, lots of people over here. But then it got to the point where we were actually covering calls for that station during the day. So the township recognized this. The township pretty much came down and said, you're either going to do this or we're going to do it for you. And finally, literally in my tenure as chief, there was 5 chiefs over there, sat down with every one of them and said, we have to get this done. Everyone pretty much said no, but in a little bit stronger terms. And we didn't get anywhere. But finally, the township stepped in and said we had to get it done. So it worked out well. We're in our 3rd year. We just passed our 3rd year mark, and it's really worked out well. It's, there's still a little bit of, we'll call it separation a little bit with a few of especially the older members, but it's slowly getting better, and we're able to move manpower around. We're able to move apparatus around. Gives us a lot of flexibility. We're responding as a department. We're serving the residents better. We're saving money. We've cut all kinds of money out of the budget. We've gotten rid of some vehicles. We've cut down duplication. So we've done a lot of things in really good.
But when he talks about that cutting, we've also been able to build 2 new stations,
right,
and we've also been able to purchase 3 new pieces of apparatus, and a 4th one coming. So along the lines of the merger, what we were fortunate enough to be able to do a few years back was show to the township supervisors, who one of the supervisors happened to be a financial planner, of what we do when we sell our apparatus. We sell it at a 20-year-old piece of apparatus, or we sell a 15-year-old piece of apparatus. And we were able to show that if we sell a 20-year-old piece of apparatus, we get about 25% of the original cost of the vehicle back in resale. Whereas at 15 years, we get roughly 50% of the cost of the original vehicle back, into our coffers. And the other eye opener when we went through this merger process was Ken set up interviews. We interviewed 7 fire departments in the area. And when I say in the area, it's basically Montgomery County and Berks County, just to our north and west of us. And we interviewed a company where the merger failed. We interviewed a company where the merger, they said if they had to do it all over again, they wouldn't do it. We had one that was forced down the other company's throat. And to this day, it's still like an autocracy versus, something, where everybody agrees. And then the other ones were favorable mergers. But what opened our eyes was one of the ones we talked to, and I try to stress this when I talk to our members about how fortunate we are as a volunteer fire department, was there was a merger between 3 fire companies that served 7 municipalities in their first due. And only 2 of those 7 municipalities give any funding to that volunteer fire department. And that was one of the biggest eye openers for me when we did this merger. And when we kind of told our membership, what was happening and where we were, it kind of made the process, easy. When it came time to vote, our company at that time voted basically 56-0 in favor of the merger. The other one was like 25-8. So it was still significant, when you look at it. It was probably, like 85%, between the 2 departments were in favor of it. And a small number weren't. Okay. But then the small number that weren't really active either.
Wow. That's definitely going to be a subject we're going to start now for, maybe we'll pick a date next year sometime. I'm just kidding. We'll find it, because that is a great subject to talk about, because as it's a very timely topic in the volunteer fire service. And you guys certainly did a lot of work and found out a lot of interesting things. So I definitely want to talk about that.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
We went out and did numerous talks and seminars and presentations on merging since ours. And it's amazing how many people, even in our own county, are either talking about it or doing it. And we've traditionally had, I think it's 97 fire companies in Montgomery County. I think it was like 102 stations. And they're coming down. We're probably closer to 90 now. But it's amazing to see how many are actually talking about it right now. It's incredible. So yeah, it is a huge topic, especially here.
Yeah, I'm already taking a million notes. And look, I'm going to go down this path. I'm going to just ask one more question about mergers. Sometimes a red flag goes up in the air when you talk mergers that, okay, so my department's hurting and department B's hurting, and we merge, and now we have twice the area, but we're still hurting for members. But you saw it benefit in so many other ways, though.
Yeah, so, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So one of the things that we saw with that, and the attorney that we used to help guide us through the merger process was somebody that had experience. He did 21 successful ones at that time. He's done several more since then, and one that failed. And the one that failed was one of the ones I mentioned that we interviewed as well. And there's tons of reasons for that. But what he said is you usually end up with one fire company has all the money, one fire company has all the personnel. And he says that's a hurdle that you're going to have to get over. And the other one is where you're trying to merge a 501c3 volunteer fire company with a 501c4. And in Pennsylvania, the 501c4 is generally the fire company that has a club, with the bar and everything like that. And that's a totally different animal, and they can take much longer than the process did for us.
Wow. Wow. All right. Interesting. Definitely something that we're going to talk about because, it seems like every day you go on a fire service website, whichever one, and there's merger somewhere happening, good or bad, it's happening. So, but what I wanted to talk about is your membership and what you're doing there to recruit and retain. And again, just for a quick overview with your department, I think you said your how many square miles is the town?
A little less than 24 square miles.
And what's the total population now? Did you say 20 something thousand?
Probably between 20 to 22. So I'd say around 21,000.
Okay. And how many stations?
Two.
Two stations. Okay. And it's 100% volunteer department, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And does everyone respond from home? Do you do duty staffing at all, or?
Everybody responds from home. We don't necessarily do duty staffing, no. The answer is no.
But one of the things when I was chief and when Ken got in as chief, we've basically said we don't want people driving to the scene. We want them coming to the fire station so they can make sure the apparatus goes out staffed and with the appropriate driver. So we're responding from home to our station.
I got it. And you merged the two departments, and then did you have to rebuild firehouses at all, or were people able to stay in their original firehouse?
So actually, the merger had nothing to do with the firehouses. The Limerick station here that we're sitting in was already, both stations were working on building projects. So let's step back a little bit. Many years ago, we worked with the township and we created what we know as the capital purchase program. In the capital purchase program is apparatus like Tom talked about. The bigger apparatus has about a 15-year replacement program, but also in that capital program was money set aside to work on both of our stations because both stations were very old. So both station projects were already in design prior to the merger. Prior to the merger, the Limerick station moved forward and was knocked down and rebuilt. And after the merger, we did the same thing to the Linfield station. So the answer is yes, we knocked down and rebuilt both stations, but it really had nothing to do with the merger.
Gotcha. Okay. So now you're merged. You even changed the name, correct? They were Fire Company. It was Limerick Fire Company and Linfield Fire Company, correct? Now it's
so
Limerick.
What we did though, right? What we did as a compromise, we took the Limerick name and the Linfield number. So we changed our number to 51. We used to be 54 here. They were 51. And then they used to be Linfield. We were Limerick. So we took our name with their number. So as a compromise for the merger, we sort of have a touch of both of our stations in the title.
Okay.
But we did change from a company to a department.
Okay. So now let's talk about how we get members. I know you said you're active in the community. What kind of membership recruitment ideas have you found that either have worked for you or maybe you tried some things that didn't work? What can you share with our listeners about what's worked? Well, first of all, how many active members do you currently have? And is it a decent number? Obviously everyone wants more, but are you holding steady? Are you seeing a decline?
So first define active. And so we have about 80 responders, and our definition here in Limerick is active is 20% of making 20% of the calls, 50% of the training. That's our definition of active. So when you say how many active people we have, so like I said, there's 80 responders, but we would classify close to 50 as being active.
Pretty healthy.
It's very healthy.
Yes.
Actually, we watch what's happening all around our county and even in some of the other counties. And we know we have very, very good numbers.
And we don't take it for granted.
Right.
That's the thing. If you take it for granted, it can be gone. As fortunate we're to build it up, it's much easier to tear it down. So
That's
And we're fortunate too, we created a recruitment retention committee, which I'm sure many other departments, I would hope, have in place as well. To come up with ideas on how to actually, recruit members, so to say. The township itself has a community day once a year in the fall. So we'll set up a booth there and kind of promote our, just hang out with everybody and talk to people and have applications available if they're interested at that point. At the same time, we have an event for their children that they can do over there, fire company activity,
It's like a little challenge
it's
course.
a challenge course, they
at
go
the
through.
community day.
So, we do that. We'll post, create some videos of calls we had and just interject, hopefully, good conversations with the public as that. And I know we've recruited a couple of people from there as well.
bring the smoke trailer because the kids love that.
Yeah.
So do mom and dad. They've never been in those situations either.
So we have
And
plenty of
sometimes you can
ideas.
get mom or dad to join.
Yeah.
But it's funny because Scott's right though. The committee that we have, the recruitment and retention committee, it's roughly 8, 9, 10 people. I forget what it is off the top of my head. I mean, they all put their heads together. There's ideas from outside to come into the committee that they all bounce around. They've come up with some outstanding, but we have a slew of things we do. So we do have the community day. We do target the schools now. Prior to COVID, the schools have their career day or whatever you want to call it, that we send members over. And something we learned about career day as an example, at first we were sending, some of the older members, the officer kind of members, but we learned to send the younger members because they relate better with the kids that are walking the hallways. We actually send some of our junior type members to these events because when the kids are walking in the hallway, they recognize each other and they tend more to talk to each other. So like those kinds of events, all of our members are programmed to reach out to their friends and family. There's a ton of things that we do out there. Probably, one of the biggest things we do is we do a youth fire camp here. So we started it about
6 years ago.
14, 15 years ago.
Well,
The camp.
actually, we've really gone 6 straight years with the camp.
No. The camp's been in service now probably for close to.
It's been a
Well,
while.
okay.
Anyway, it's been in place for a while, so
Yeah,
we've been
the
pretty good
attendance.
with it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But we started out with a camp here. Our first camp, we had 36 kids at it. And it's Monday through Friday, 9 to noon. And what we do is we pretty much let the kids do everything the firemen do. But for the last many years, we've been at 125-ish kids in camp, which we cap it out every year. So they come out for the week. They spend a whole week here. They're ages 6 to 13. And they're able to do everything the firemen do. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful camp. If you ever go to our website, lfd51.org, and look at the pictures under the youth camp, there's thousands and thousands of pictures that Scott's wife has taken and posted. They've done a great job documenting the camp. We've had people reach out from as far as Washington State to see how the camp is run. We've had lots of people here to participate in the camp just to see if they could do it back in their home station. The other thing we did was, besides the camp, many years ago, we created the cadet program. So we had a junior program from 16 and 17. We started a cadet program from 15 to 16. We learned that the earlier we get the kids involved in the fire service, the better chance we have of keeping them. So right now, between 14 and 17, I think we have 23, we'll call them juniors, on our roster. Some of them are a lot more active than others, but we have one of the largest junior rosters around in the county as well. So there's many, many programs that we have, and they've all been very helpful in contributing to the success of our membership.
One thing I remember learning from there's Dr. Candace McDonald does a lot on recruitment and retention. If you ever get a chance to see her speak, very well versed in it. One thing I remember taking away from one of her classes was the fact that you hit it so right, Chief. The earlier you get them, the better. And they're finding that getting them at that 14 or 15-year-old age is actually advantageous, more so than getting the 18 or 19-year-old or even 17-year-old, because when they become juniors and seniors in high school, they are usually so involved in so much. And the earlier you can get them involved in the fire service, the better, because it's too easy for them to not get involved once they get into the other things that they might do at school. So I think you're proving that with your cadet program.
And Tom, you bring up a good point too with the other activities. You know, like when I was a kid growing up, you know, Limerick Fire Company sponsored 4 little league teams. You know, or you played in a church softball league, you know, as you grew up. And then now that you get older, there's so much more competition for, you know, volunteers, whether it's, you know, a volunteer coach in little leagues, you know, soccer or
Whatever youth sports.
yeah, whatever youth sports there are. And so, you know, getting them involved early is good. Now, one of the biggest pushes that we had from an actual high school class was around 2012. We got about probably 6 or 7 kids from Springford's 2012 graduating class that are still active, joined us, and they became very active in the fire department. And, you know, we've been fortunate, you know, that we've been able to keep them. And, you know, when you talk about the recruitment, you also have to have a budget for recruitment too. The township, we basically have 2 budgets at Limerick Fire Department. We have our internal budget that we use for that we get from our fundraising events. And we basically just do 4 main fundraising events. And there's only one that's longer than 1 day. We do an annual golf tournament. We do an annual comedy night. We do a carnival, and then we do a fireworks parking. And we're looking at a 1 or 2 night deal for like a hayride of horrors around Halloween. And the township doesn't want us to constantly be out there raising money. So in the township's annual operating budget to the fire department, the township allots for public relations in our 2022 budget over $10,000 for that. And then in our recruitment and retention internal operating budget, we allot $2,500. And we've been fortunate enough also to look at grants, to get grants to help fund that. And one of them has come from the Firefighters Association of the state of Pennsylvania that they got through FEMA and the AFG grant for recruitment and retention. They got a SAFER grant for that. And for like the last 2 years, we've been able to get $5,000 towards that by identifying a project that we wanted to do. And, you know, if you're going to recruit, you got to put your money where your mouth is as well. And so you got to know where to go to look for money. And we got great folks here that understand the grant process and what needs to be done for that. And that's how we've been able to get some money for it. And then, like I said, what the township allots, and then what we raise on our own.
And I think it's safe to say that none of this could happen without what you said at the very beginning there about having a recruitment and retention committee. So every department, regardless of budget, regardless of size, regardless of the makeup of the department, can put together an R&R committee to at least begin exploring some of these ideas or what might work in their area.
Most definitely. I mean, you think back to what Ken said with our youth camp. And we had one firefighter who came out of that youth camp, joined our department, Gavin. And he came out of that. So
he's one of the first ones.
One of the first ones through the program or through the youth camp. Lived in a neighboring township and had it at his grandparents' house, and had his grandmother come and drive him down every Monday for training when he joined, and then convinced his grandmother and uncle to move into the township so he could run with the fire department here.
Wow.
Another thing that we started, and thanks to Tom's daughter, Tom has a daughter on the spectrum. We started I guess an autistic camp. Is that what we call it?
We call it a special needs
camp. That's what sorry. So we do that 1 day a week, and that's for anybody. I mean, that's anybody that's on the spectrum that has a special needs. We'll do something very similar to what we do at the youth camp, but we'll do it there for those with special needs. We'll teach them how to dial 911, let them look at the trucks, teach them how to incorporate CPR,
smoke alarms,
test some smoke alarms along that.
Let's just clarify. So Scott's right. The special needs camp sort of came about because of the kids camp. We had people wanting to sign up that had special needs that wanted their kids to come, but they did come, but they really couldn't participate with the rest of the kids. So I'm not sure really who came up with the idea. It might have been Gina that said we should do a one-day camp for the special needs kid. So that's really more of a community outreach thing, because those kids are probably not going to join. But what we have realized is, take example, one of our members who does have a special needs child who did join. He joined because of that camp.
That's
And
what,
what- right, what we-
that's what I was
so-
going to get to.
So even though it's not necessarily that camp, it's not those kids aren't joining. We did get one of the parents from it actually. So
Right,
it's not necessarily, you have to look outside the box a little bit and realize that it's not always kids that are going to join to do things.
So if Tom, if I can, just a little more clarification. So like, I have two daughters. My oldest daughter teaches autistic support in Reading School District. So she teaches kids, basically from K through 2. Some are nonverbal, some English isn't the primary language. And so our other daughter is mild MR and on the autistic spectrum. And you're limited as to certain things that you can do. But the committee that came up with this special needs camp, they basically set the plan for it every year. The committee, it's always the end of fire prevention week, the last Saturday of fire prevention week. And what's great about it is it's from 6 to 60 something. We have twins that are 63 years old from the neighboring community that come over, and they just have the best time. And you talk about, you hope they get some satisfaction and enjoy it. You can't imagine the satisfaction that it gives every member that participates in that, the satisfaction that they know how to dial 911. They know what to do if somebody collapses, as Scott mentioned, with CPR. They kind of have an idea what they need to do for that. And just to get them involved, a fire truck is something some of their parents thought they'd never be able to, even sit in, and what I can tell you is there's not one person here at Limerick Fire Department that does not enjoy showing a child or even an adult, the apparatus, because that's how much pride they have in it. And they just want to, make people feel welcome. So that it's a big plus for us, even though that's only one day. There's a lot that goes into it.
Oh,
there's a shirt that's created that talks of, the committee comes up with a different saying on it every year. And it sometimes will bring tears to your eyes.
Delivers a message.
Delivers a great message.
But your community outreach also ties into recruitment because of the domino effect. You
I mean, like you said, good community outreach, I think, and if you're able to publicize that via social media, however, whatever mechanism you use, be it Facebook or your website or whatever those other ones use that I don't get involved in. I think that shows support or the dedication of the department that you could find some attraction from a resident that may say, hey, this is a good organization, let's check it out.
Yeah, I always talk about when you take a fire truck to a community day somewhere, say you're at a Home Depot or whatever, it's a community, and you're looking for the young kids and they're excited to see the truck and you're showing off equipment, but standing right there with the young child could be mom or dad. And they might get it. We've had success bringing members in that way. So the point is, community outreach, not only does it generate positive public relations, but it's also a great recruitment opportunity as well.
Yeah, and I sit on the recruitment retention committee, and so does my wife. And like Ken said, there's probably about 10 of us. We look at, some other ways. And one thing that we're looking at that we started pre-COVID, but when COVID hit, we didn't. We're calling it the welcome basket. So one of our members works in real estate. So we're able to see when there's house sales or transfers. And what we're looking to do was, send a basket to the house after they get moved in, get notification of it, give them a couple goodies and an application. Just, maybe I'll buy off chance. They'll say, hey, this is pretty nice. Maybe we'll come check it out. Obviously we haven't kicked it off the floor yet, but we have that planned as an idea to see how that comes about.
Always thinking, which, that's the great thing about having a committee. Does the committee meet regularly to discuss ideas and plan?
Yeah, we try to get, we might do once a quarter, at that point. We just met here a couple, 2 weeks ago, I guess, or last week. I can't remember. It's been a long week. It's only Tuesday, but it's still been a long week.
To dovetail on what Scott said, the one thing that I think that's helped us to be successful, and Kenny, Scott, and I can tell you, because we sit on various committees, you can't have the same people sitting on all these different committees. You gotta get the membership involved. And we specifically tell some of our members, when we looked at a couple, there was a couple of people, they were on 6 or 7 different committees. And oh, by the way, you want them also to be a firefighter. So where do you get the time? So we've been fortunate that we've been able to convey that message to the membership and get the different folks in the department, whether they be an active firefighter or contributing member, involved in these committees.
Yeah, so important. That leads me to a question I was going to ask. With things that you're doing, you got so many activities going on. They always say, what's a volunteer's most precious commodity, and it's time. So do you ever get pushback? Like, let's use the fire camp for examples. I would imagine whoever's running that camp, they're taking a week off of work to do that.
It's the guy,
the chief. I know.
I've been here 42 years.
Listen, so I'll tell you, in all honesty, Tom, it's interesting because we have anywhere from 35 to 50 people a day running the camp.
Personnel from the fire department running it?
So it's probably 90% personnel from the fire department, and we have a few outside volunteers that come in as well. We have a few parents of some of the kids. Some of the kids that come are husbands or something or wives from other fire departments, where they're bringing their younger kids that aren't members yet. So we have the camp is from kids from all over the place. The furthest attendee we've ever had was from Florida. But so the camp is not just regulated to kids from Limerick Township, but the camp is really made up, if anybody can sign up for it, but the membership that runs it literally is between 35 and 50 every day.
Are they staying at the firehouse overnight, or is it a date?
9 a.m. It's 9 a.m. to noon, 3 hours a day. That's it.
And if they come from out of the area, they must be staying at a hotel somewhere, or?
Well, I'll tell you, the kid that came from Florida, there was a lady, she brought her son to the camp. She had so much fun. After our first year at the camp, we received numerous emails about the camp. We knew we were going to start the balloon from there. But she actually told her sister, who lives in Florida, and she made sure her sister got her nephew up here the following year to attend the camp. So that the child just stayed, obviously, they just all stayed at her house. So most of the part, the kids drive here every morning. They're dropped off by 9 o'clock, and then they're picked up by noon.
Gotcha.
And then, Tom, the other thing with the members of the fire department that participate, some of them work second shift jobs, some of them work from home, but a lot of the guys and gals will take, a couple days of their own vacation, from work.
Absolutely.
to participate in it. And some of the employers are good. They'll allow them, let's say, since it's only in the morning, they'll say, okay, take the morning, 4 days of the week or something like that, and work the afternoon, and you're only using 2 days of vacation versus a whole week's worth of vacation.
Right. Huh. So I got something for you for a recruitment and retention idea. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I was listening to one, I believe it was Old School with Chief Lasky and Chief John Salka. I'm sure you know who those gentlemen are, legends in our fire service. They were at a conference, I think it was in New Jersey, and when the pizza got delivered, the local volunteer fire department bought the pizza boxes and put an advertisement right on the pizza boxes, so they went to everybody's home.
That's a good idea.
That they need volunteer firefighters. So I thought that was kind of a neat idea.
That's a good idea.
A lot of pizza shops here in the township.
So just curious, what kind of activities do you do with the kids in those 3 hours for that week? Just a couple different.
Listen, when I say they do everything the firemen do, They do everything. And that's why I say if you go to the website, lfd51.org, and look under youth camp and look at all the pictures, they do everything. They roll hose, they unroll hose, they do cribbing, they'll do ladder work, they'll operate the ladder truck, they'll flow water, they'll do confined space, we even have them do fire police stuff.
Crush soda cans with jaws of life.
They work extinguishers. We have an extinguisher demo, like a demo set from Bullocks. And then, but we also use real extinguishers we get stoves, and we actually light stoves on fire. So we also show them some home fire safety. The kids will touch on CPR. They'll do a little CPR class here with the local ambulance.
When?
They do, so we teach them some stuff they can use at home, but we also, the big thing is getting them interested in the fire service. We do a rescue demo. We bring a helicopter in. There is so much that goes on in the course of the week. It's crazy. The best way to do it is to go on the website, look at the pictures, and you'll see these kids. And I'll tell you, the funniest thing is you would never know there's 125 kids here, except for 2 times. In the morning when they all first get here in the morning, when they're all sitting as one big group and we talk to them before we get started, and in the afternoon when they all reconvene to go home. Otherwise, you would never know there's 125 kids here. They're paying attention. They're getting involved. We have an arson dog come up and do a demo. Sometimes we have a police canine dog do a demo. We've had the bomb squad here. We've had the water teams here. We've had the dive team. We've had all kinds of stuff here go on in the course of the week. We try and change it up. We even had the New Jersey Sprinkler Association here. We built 2 rooms. One of them had sprinklers and one of them didn't. And we actually showed the kids, we lit them both on fire. We showed the kids how sprinklers put fires out versus the one that didn't. So we've done so much different stuff here over the last, it's got to be 14, 15 years that we've been doing the camp. It's absolutely nuts. We have parents, I bet you easily 24 times after camp, I'll get parents say to me, you should do it for 2 weeks instead of 1 because my kid didn't get in. But I try and explain to them that people are taking time off of work, rearranging schedules, volunteering, doing this, that there's no way we could ask our members to do any more than they already do for us.
Well, and Ken brings up a good point with that. A lot of people, when they move into Limerick Township, they think we're a paid department, and they until they see it at a community event, or maybe their neighbor's smoke alarm goes off for whatever reason, they think, wow, you're paid, right? No, we're 100% volunteer.
Right.
And the township wants to keep us 100% volunteer. They know it's more economically feasible for them to do that. And that's where the township's operating budget that they provide to the fire department and the capital purchase program helps. And I don't know if I'm going down a road you don't want to go down for this call, but one of the things that has been a huge help, but we still want ownership for, is we didn't want the township to buy the fire trucks and firehouse 100%. Yeah, would that have been great? But the problem is, and you may have seen this or you may not have seen, but my experience has been when the township pays for something 100%, it does not get taken care of properly because you don't have your fire department's money in it. And so for both of these stations and for all of our apparatus, we pay 10% of that of that building and that apparatus because, and Kenny, Scott, and I, we all talked about this. We wanted the ownership in it because if somebody wants to kick open a door, now I can chew them out, because I don't want their footprint in the middle of the door, because that's my money that went to pay for that. I worked at the carnivore. Scott worked at the carnivore, or, everybody did them to earn money so that we could give, the 10% down payment. And that helps with the pride in the organization as well.
Yeah. Ownership and pride. Excellent points there. So obviously you've got a good population there to draw from. And, some of our listeners may not have that robust population to draw from for some of the, like a camp or something, but still being engaged with the community in doing some of the other things is certainly doable, whether you have a large population or not. Anything else that you're doing community-wide to attract new members? You're going to the schools for career day. You're doing the junior programs. You're doing the camp.
So there's a couple other things. One of the other things we do I'll give you, it's like some of the more simple things. Besides the programs we're talking about, we also participate Our tech school has what's called a protective services program here that the kids can go in there, and there's a couple different fields they can really study hard on, which is police, fire, ambulance, and security. But it prepares them for a public safety kind of environment. So we participate very heavily in that program, but that's more of an organized program. But to get away from the program for recruitment, I'll give you an example. That's something that it's easy for people to do, especially in the summertime. We go out into the neighborhoods, and we spend time on drill nights, and we'll run drills in the neighborhoods, and we'll set up the ladder truck, and we'll flow water, and we'll lay out hose across the neighborhood. And you get in these developments where, there's 300, 400, 500 homes in these developments, and you get kids and parents coming out. They're looking, they're talking. The members know to talk to the people that come out, and you're just talking. You're opening the doors, letting them look in the trucks. The kids are flowing a little bit of water. They're playing with the nozzle. So we go out, especially like I said, in the summertime, and we spend a lot of time in the neighborhoods, and it builds so much, whether you want to call it excitement or at least interest in what the fire department does. But our members, like I said, our program, they know that we're out there to recruit as well. As much as it is, we try and encourage the membership to relay to the community. The fire department is theirs. It's their trucks, their building, their tax money pays for it. But to get involved, you don't have to be a fireman to get involved. Go back to the community day where we're standing up at community day, and an elderly gentleman walks up and said, "I'm too old to be a fireman." And we just started talking to him, and we said, "Listen, there's other things you can do. That you can help with community events. If you're good at accounting, you can help with the books. If you're good with, IT, help with the websites or whatever it is." And he actually wound up he got interested in fire police, and he's actually now our highest running member, and he's also our fire police captain. So there's lots of things that we do that don't necessarily cost money either.
And one of the things we did when we looked at the age group that we wanted to do some recruitment with is we added to our bylaws where normally you get life membership at 20 years of active service. Okay, well, if somebody's retired at 62 or 65, how are they going to get 20 years of active service to get the benefits of being a life member? Well, we changed it to 10 years, took it down to 10 years, and those folks are basically getting the same benefits, and they're getting their life membership in 10 years, but they can be 75 years old when they get that life membership and whatever benefits are associated with that.
I'll give you one more free way to keep excitement going, and I'll go back to Scott's wife. Scott's wife, Dorian, has been a photographer of ours for many years, but simple things like keeping your website and Facebook page up to date with what's going on. Every time there's a call, post a few pictures. It builds excitement. People want to see what's going on in their community, and in some cases, they want to get involved. So when they see, the website, all these pictures of, fires or accidents or rescues or whatever we're on, and the Facebook page is popping. I think that, again, you talk about free things to do that, listen, we spend money on recruitment. We spend a lot of money on retention, which we'll talk about in a second. Yeah. But you talk about just trying to build excitement in the community, use the power of social media, which is free, and just keep it updated and keep things flowing out there. Your fundraisers, get people more, get your fundraisers out there, get your what you're doing on a daily basis for calls. And the community really does pay attention to the department.
Chief, I was going to tell you, I was going to tell all of you that I left myself a note as I prowled around your Facebook page, both when I was headed out there to the conference in September and since then, including leading up to the show. You got one of the nicest websites I've seen, and you can tell someone really has some TLC for that or takes some real tender loving care with that site. And as I say all the time, it directly impacts a department's reputation, and you can sell that professional message. Again, this is the professional volunteer fire department. That's what we're all trying to do, is sell ourselves as professionals, even, volunteer professionals, and the social media presence can certainly help or hinder with that. And yours is definitely one of the best I've seen. So
we can track how many people visit the webpage and do things. And I got to tell you, it's amazing to see how many people actually do visit the webpage on a daily basis.
And sometimes it's simple things like just keeping it updated, like you mentioned.
That's exactly right. Yep. Keep it updated. I mean, it really does build excitement in the community.
Yeah, I mean,
Man, again, that website is lfd51.org for our listeners, lfd51.org. And one other thing I wanted to tell you before we talk maybe a little bit about some retention. You mentioned about the life membership, changing it to 10 years. My guest on the last show, Dan Krasinski, is the chief of the East Franklin, New Jersey volunteer fire department. They changed their life membership from 20 or 25 years down to 10. And they had an interesting reason. I like your reason. That's probably something he didn't think of for the older member, but they use it as a retention issue or a retention tool, because their studies have shown they were keeping the average member, the average volunteer, or the time somebody volunteered for them on average was 6, 7, maybe 8 years at the most. That was their average, 6 to 8 years. So they would lose them. And by bringing their life membership down to 10 years, they found they were able to retain these people for those extra couple of years. They're that close, so they don't want to quit. In their case, when they become a life member, they don't have to do duty shifts. That department does duty shifts. Everyone does one duty shift a week. Very interesting. Go back and listen to that show, listeners, because there's some great ideas there. So they found they were able to keep a member on those extra couple 2-3 years to achieve life membership, get the life membership benefits, and keep them on the active roles and still participating in some way. So I thought that was very, very interesting, and not bad ideas at all. A lot of good ideas there. And I just want to remind our listeners that this is Fire Engineering Talk Radio, tonight's installment of the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. Thanks for listening in. My guests are Lieutenant and Vice President Scott Miles, President Tom Walters, and Chief Ken Schuler from the Limerick Fire Department in the great state of Pennsylvania. We are talking all things recruitment and retention. A lot of great ideas. I do love that recruitment idea. And we've talked about it in my department for new people moving into the town. A welcome basket. I think that's a great idea and worth considering to look into. We've talked about it as well. But let's talk about keeping members now. My fire chief has a great line he's been using, because my department, the Snyder Fire Department, we've got a decent membership. We've got an active recruitment and retention committee. They've been doing some great things. They've been bringing, I'm a fire commissioner. They bring us their ideas. We've changed some of our rules as far as out of district members. We're now doing a duty shift program. I talked about it last month, where people can volunteer instead of doing, say, 20% like of the runs I think your members have to do. Our members, if they choose to do it, can volunteer to serve so many hours a month at the firehouse. It started January 1st. We brought in 10 new members. I think we've already brought up to 12 new members since we started it. It's an interesting concept. We're going to see how it goes. Ask me in 6 months or a year how it's going. But right now, it's looking pretty good. We've been able to bring members in that just can't leave home to go to calls because of their spouse working or child commitments, or maybe they're a coach on a traveling sports team, but they can find the 20 or 24 hours a month to be at the firehouse. 2-hour shift, 4-hour shift, 8-hour shift, it doesn't matter. And that's what they got to do for us. So interesting that a lot of great ideas out there, but how do we keep them? How do we get them engaged? Because as my assistant chief has started to say, what he's been saying is, we got a decent membership, but we need to engage people to get them to want to come around and be involved. And then the second part of that is to be inspired and motivated and have pride in the department. So what do we do to create a firehouse that people want to be at and help out at and be involved and go to calls? Chief, I'll start with you. You're the man.
So Tom, listen, Tom touched on a little bit already, but what we've learned is over many, many years here is that there's lots of tasks to be done. And Tom already touched on a couple of things. Instead of having 3 people doing 10 of those each, we found that if we spread the stuff out, get more people involved, people start taking ownership of those particular areas, whether it's truck committees, carnival, golf outing, whatever it might be. We do lots of fundraisers here as well, but we truly do spread the jobs out amongst everybody to keep everybody involved. I think the more you keep people involved, I think it's easier to say that they want to stay, they want to come in, they want to be, they have their area they're in control of. We have a person now, one of our newer members, taking care of our SCBA maintenance as an example. But there's just lots and lots of pieces to a fire department, as you very well know. So we truly spread it out a lot. We have all the engineers are all responsible for a particular piece of apparatus. We have an equipment committee that looks at all of our equipment that, what can we do to maintain it? What do we want to do to upgrade it? Where do we want to take our equipment to? What level? So it goes on and on. We have a whole boat. We have a water rescue, which we inherited through the merger. That it's a decent group. We took the group, merged it with our fewer water members, and we've created a really robust water team now. We've gotten them all kinds of grant money. We've replaced all kinds of equipment. We've enhanced that team. So we now have a very strong water team here at presence in Montgomery County. So again, that's another whole team of 20 some people in the department.
Let me ask you a quick question, if I may, Chief. Spreading the wealth, so to speak. Do you go to some of the newer members to encourage them to get involved? Because I've heard people try this angle and it's failed because they seem to wait for the new members or the members in general to step forward to say, I'll do that. Do you find you've got to kind of not strong arm them, but just encourage them to get, and maybe once you start doing it, it builds and takes off and then people do more.
We don't strong arm anybody for anything, to be honest with you. The water team, it's interesting because our captain that actually runs the water team, he's been doing it for many years, even in another department he was involved in. But I think that just the overall interest, watching the team grow, watching the team, they train at least once a month on a Sunday, they go out on the water. I think people just want to get involved in these things, but it goes beyond the water team. We've gotten involved in many task force. We're on the foam task force in the county. We're in the large diameter hose task force in the county. We're in the fire task force in the county. I'm missing one, but either way, what we've gotten involved in, we've
He said that.
Yeah. So we've diversified in so many different areas with different task force. So it gives us a little bit different. Everybody has a strong point when they come into the service, whether it's, some people like ropes and knots, some people don't. Some people like water, some people don't. Some people like rescue, some people don't. So, we have a lot of different areas of that. So besides the task force and the water team, we've also created the different committees for the different fundraisers. So even if you don't want to be necessarily on the fire side as much, like in other words, on maybe one of these specialized things, building fire apparatus as part of the apparatus committee or on task force, maybe you want to be more involved on the fundraiser side, but still being a fireman. Some of the other things though that we do is we've created for retention, we have a couple different programs. Through the Relief Association, we have numerous insurance policies, life insurance,
Health insurance.
We do physicals. We now provide physicals for the members through NFPA 1581. We also do a VIP program, which is what's called a volunteer incentive program. Most people know it as a pay-per-call program, but that's only for fire calls and training. So it encourages people to come to fire calls and training to get points to be in that program. We have the LOSAP, which is the Length of Service Awards program, which is basically a retirement program. So we have many programs in place for financial assistance, but at the same time, for interest in just staying as a part of a volunteer on an everyday basis.
And Tom, these things didn't happen overnight. These have been looked at over a period of time, and it may have implemented one, 15 years ago, and then 5 years later you're implementing another one because either your finances allow for it or the need is there for the fire department.
So VIT is VIT pay per call? Are you giving them a monetary stipend?
It is. So actually what we do is we have a pot of money that we've again, working with the township very closely. The township contributes $50,000 into that pot. We put in $10,000, so it's a $60,000 pot for the calls you attend and the trainings you attend. As long as you obtain active status, being 20 and 50%, 20% of calls, 50% of training, then you're qualified to be in the program. Once you're in the program, you have so many points for the calls and training you've attended. And the more advanced training you have, the more points you're eligible for. So again, it does a couple things. It encourages you to come to training, and calls, but it also encourages you to get more training, so you have advanced training to be eligible for more points. The more points you have into that pot equates to the more dollars you get. The program runs for us from October 1st to September 30th. And then it gives us a month and a half to work with the township, and we get the checks cut through the fire department, and we give the checks at the Christmas party, so they have them for Christmas.
Do you know what the average is? Do you know what the average payout is? I'm just curious.
Probably between 600
And about 1,100, between 6 and 11, 6 and 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
See, in New York, you can't do that in New York, where that's illegal in New York. But I've heard of other areas that do that, and it's not a bad idea.
We keep it on the up. Some people get as high as $2,000 or $3,000.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they get a 1099 anything over $600.
Sure.
Right. So that's how we keep it legal.
Right. No, it's totally legal. It's just illegal in New York. New York does not let you do pay per call for the volunteers. That's a story for another day.
Tom, if I can, one of the other things that we do is we want to involve our fire department members' families as well. So, years ago, we would do banquets every year. And then, if you're a chief officer, you get invited to other departments' banquets, that you do mutual aid with. And it just gets so old. It was the same thing over and over. So what we did.
Attendance was dropping.
Yeah, attendance was dropping. They weren't near attended, like they used to be. And so what we did is for 85th anniversary, which would have been around 90, somewhere around the turn of the century, 99, 2000, somewhere around there. What we did is we said, let's do it every 5 year on our 5-year anniversary. And when we do that, we can have a bigger shindig for it. You go to a country club, Springford Country Club here in Limerick Township, and banquet facility. You have a nice meal. You bring in a speaker like Paul Combs, to talk. You give away like CDs or Streamlight flashlights, different things like that to your members, and you give them a shirt to commemorate it, or a license plate, for the front of their car to commemorate, the 85th anniversary, the 90th or the 95th anniversary, and you get their family involved. And going back to attendance, if you make the 20% of the calls and the 50% of the training, you and your spouse are free 100%. If you only make, say, 15% of the calls and make something, let's say 40% of the training, we say, okay, you're free, but you have to pay for your spouse, something like that, to encourage them to do that attendance. But the other thing, and this is what a lot of departments in our area don't understand, how we're fortunate to do this, is we require all of our firefighters within 18 months of joining to get NFPA 1001. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then 1001-1, and then within 36 months, 1001-2, for firefighter 2 within 36 months. And others say, you're chasing them away. It's 188 hours. You tell somebody they got to do 188 hours. Well, honestly, it's not that tough, because if your leadership has it, what better way to show the importance of it than to have your leadership? Then the other thing we did with that is Pennsylvania has a recognition program for participation in that. They have at 10%. There's a, if you have 10% of your active membership at 1001-1, you get a participating membership. If you have 50%, you get a bronze membership. Yeah, if you have 75%, you get a silver membership. And if you have a gold, if you have 100%, you get the gold certificate. And we started that 03-ish, somewhere around there. And we've just been able to build upon it. And the other thing is, we're now one of only 2 fire departments that have been gold for 15 years straight, and also had the rescue certification for 15 years straight that the Pennsylvania Department of Health recognizes. And that's not something, whoever the leadership is, whether it's Kenny, whether it's me, or whoever it's going to be in the future, nobody wants to be the one to lose that.
Right.
So
right.
So there's a lot of pride in that. And we've gotten, go ahead.
Do you take members that are more support members, like, or does everyone have to be firefighter 1 and 2 certified?
Well, no, that when we when somebody joins, I mean, we try to look at what your interests are, so to say. So we have development and we have some categories. It's like a driver operator. If they only want to be a driver operator for the apparatus, there are certain training requirements that are established that they have to attain. Obviously, there's one member that he wanted to become that's what he wanted to do, be a driver operator to start with. Then he started doing some training. He's like, nah. Then he kind of, he saw my wife taking pictures, doing photography, so he kind of switched over to photography. So he was doing that for a while. He wanted to switch, so we are trying to keep him there and get him to find where he wanted to go. And then he said, well, maybe I'll do fire police. So now he's a fire police. He's gone through all the fire police training that he's required by the department, and he's loving it. I mean, it's not the gentleman that's the top runner, but I think he's second in command now.
Now, do you run EMS there?
No,
No.
no
Okay.
EMS at all.
Okay. So you don't
I
have
think, Tom, the important thing is anybody that joins, we, like to Scott's point, we determine what they're joining for, and then we let them know what the expectations are of that particular position.
Oh, the old
That's
established expectations. Yes.
Yes. So we actually, it's laid out in a very clear document. No matter what category you're joining as, whether it's firefighter or fire police, contributing member, whatever it is, there's training required, or there's requirements. Even as a contributing member, there's requirements for a contributing member. How many meetings you have to make, how many fundraisers you have to help at. Otherwise, you're not going to be a contributing member. We offer benefits to all of our members, and what we've determined is to be able to get those benefits, you're going to have to participate, and here's what it takes, the minimum participation. So we lay out all those expectations to anyone joining the department.
Very
We
good.
also assign a mentor. We have a mentor program. So we assign 2 mentors that to anybody that's been voted into the company, the organization. So if that new member has any questions, they have 2 individuals that they can go talk to try to get answers, versus, hey, I got to talk, I got to go see the president, I got to go see the chief. They're busy doing what they got to do. Hey, let me contact my mentor. And the mentor's responsibility is also to follow up on them, see how they're doing if they haven't been around. Hey, I haven't seen you in the last week or 2. Where you been? Maybe they want to win a vacation. Maybe they're losing interest somehow. But that's what they're there.
And Tom, one of the things that they do, it forces them to meet all the officers, all the administrative officers, the fire officers, and the board of directors. Is there's a lot they got to go around and get your signature. It's exactly what I did when I pledged a fraternity in college. And to this day, I can still tell you, some of the high schools that my fraternity brothers went to. And it was a great thing. You go around, they come up to you and they say, and a lot of times it's the juniors, they say, Mr. Walters, can we get your signature? And I say, oh, sure. And I'll say, now, who else do you need? And, you try to point them out so they get facial recognition, with the name. And,
that came out of the membership, the recruitment and retention committee, back to that committee. It's a membership packet that new members get. And I got to tell you, just for your listeners, Tom, one of the things when people join the company, sometimes they don't feel welcome, and they just have trouble feeling welcome when they walk into an organization that's overwhelming, we'll call it.
Sure.
But the membership packet truly is designed to give them enough guidance through the department in conjunction with the mentors that they do feel welcome. They have all the information they need to get on the website, all the documentation they need. Our social media policy, all the policies are in this document, in this packet. I mean, so one of the things I love about the committee is they developed this packet, and they've also developed the mentor program, that people do feel welcome and they don't feel lost in this organization, because it is a big organization. And I got to tell you, again, it's just a big advantage to having the committee work together and just trying to think about how to get people in, and then once they're here, how to make them feel welcome and how to keep them.
Yeah, absolutely. We have found in the studies and talking to departments all over and talking to like Dr. Candace McDonald, who is an expert and done her doctoral research in this matter. welcoming people in the proper way is huge. It's just
Huge.
different than
Absolutely.
when I joined and they threw gear at me, gear that didn't fit. Imagine that. It was, just
Yeah,
start
it
going
was
to
a
calls.
plastic helmet with a rubber, rubber
That's probably
raincoat,
what
you
fit.
know.
That's that. When they used to joke, my equipment came from Toys R Us, but no, but
Yeah.
it's just go to calls, kid, and we'll teach you what to do. Those days have passed, and it's important to do these types of things. Tell me quickly, your mentors, do you limit it to two, or can others get involved if they want to? Because I found
Well,
with mentors,
there's,
I'm a big mentor fan, but sometimes mentors get busy too, and they're not always around at the
yeah.
same time the new member is.
Right. So what gets done is the other vice president in charge of membership has basically a list of individuals in the department who wish to be mentors. So then they get assigned to this individual. So as again, sometimes the mentor may get busy. Hopefully he'll let the I'll say mentor chair or the other vice president who's in charge of membership know, hey, I'm a little too busy. You're gonna have to assign somebody different to him for that. But that's why there's that second one to say, hey, we at least have somebody else to get in contact. Because if you just had one and all of a sudden there's that disconnect,
Yeah.
you don't know where the issue's at. Is it from the member inside the department or is it from the new member who just, you don't know where that's at. So the new individual's given that the mentor's names, contact information, be it phone number and email, department email, and vice versa. The mentors are given the individual's name. And they're expected to reach out after they've been assigned to say, hello, hey, I've been assigned to you as a mentor to get that contact moving, to make them feel welcome.
Right.
And also that if there's an issue between the two, let's say a new member and a mentor, at least the mentor or the new member can go back to the membership chair and say, hey, I'm really not cohesive here with this individual, and then they can reassign somebody.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a pool to draw from or other members that could be assigned to it if another mentor does get too busy or however and loses that disconnect.
And we also, Tom, we also give these new members when they join, basically, for lack of a better term, I'm calling it a fire department T-shirt and a hat. Okay?
Ownership, right there, right?
Yep. Yep. Because you don't want them coming around where everybody else has fire department logo
Right.
on, and they're sitting there with a white T-shirt or whatever. Okay, and then as they build up, like if they get when they pass their NFPA 1001 firefighter 1, then we'll get them a Class A uniform. Prior to that, you'll be issued a Class B uniform once you start taking firefighter 1, because we want people going to the fire academy in a uniform, and so different things like that along the way. And then couple that with our Christmas gift. Our Christmas gift that we get everybody is usually, some type of clothing as well that we don't have. So we'll spend anywhere between, on the active members, we'll spend anywhere between $75 and $100 a year for a Christmas present for them. And then for all the contributing members, we basically just pass out gift cards, that could be anywhere from $25 to $50 to say the Giant supermarket or, something like that.
So you have your active members, and then you have what you call contributing members, just to clear it up for our listeners.
Yep.
There. The
Yes.
S are the 50%, 20%.
No,
Well,
not quite.
There's the membership classifications are emergency responder. So you have your definition of being active, which is your training and your call volume, as Ken said earlier. And then you have your contributing members, which some people might call them social or whatever other term they might have. So not necessarily that they're not doing the firefighting. They could be in charge of your social media. They could actually be an administrative officer. If it's somebody who's strong in financials, banking background or whatever, they could be the department treasurer if they wished.
I got it.
Financial secretary. So I mean,
Assistant or
that's
whatever.
another way to get them involved, other individuals involved in the department. So you're not taking the time away from the firefighter, so to say, with sitting on 10 committees, being in charge of this meeting, doing this, and all that other stuff. And then we have our junior members, obviously, which are those 14 to 17-year-old that fall into that. And then there's the life membership.
Very
For
interesting.
those individuals, either at the old 20-year or the 10 plus.
Great ideas. We've been going over an hour already, and I usually limit this to an hour or so, but it's just such great information. I wanted to just quickly jump into, if you wouldn't mind, we've got our members, you've recruited them successfully, you've brought them on board, you've established expectations, spreading out duties and responsibilities, all that's being done. Let's finish with pride and morale and how we treat our members, because you're doing something there that a lot of departments maybe aren't doing or fail to realize, because everywhere I went in your firehouse, I ran into highly engaged, courteous, but very proud members. And what's the secret antidote there? Is it just treating people with respect? And Chief, again, I'll start with you if you wouldn't mind, and maybe go around the table and tell me your philosophy on your people.
I'll give you my personal opinion is I think number one, we keep everybody involved. Everybody's on the same. So we go back to our Tommy mentioned our training requirements. Everybody's required within 18 months to have training, there's certain numerous classes. And by 36 months, there's another whole slew of classes they have to have done. Everybody's on the same playing field here. It's not like some of our members are firefighter trained, some of them aren't. Everybody's on the same level. So I think we treat everybody the same across the board. Everybody gets involved. I know everybody's treated with respect for sure. I think that's the good thing about this department is even in the county and in the surrounding counties, I think though we show up with trained firefighters, and I think even outside of this department, they're respected. We go to lots of meetings. We're on lots of committees in the county at a county level, and people look to us for information and what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I think overall, the department, we've been able as a group to build such a great department name. People are truly proud to be part of the department. They're all involved in committees and apparatus and just maintenance or whatever it is in all different pieces. So it's not like you have 2 or 3 people doing everything. Other people are just showing up to be a fireman and then they go home. We truly have, it's all hands on deck. Everybody's working on something. And I think it just builds such a group pride that it's incredible. I mean, if you really just hang out here for a couple of days, like I know you have, and just watch these people interact and work together, it's amazing. It's one of the best things out of all the departments. I've been involved in 3 departments, to be honest with you. I was chief at another one for a period of time, and there's nothing like the group that's been built here over the last 25 years. We've been doing a great job. And as a group, though, we've been doing it. Like, it's not one person.
Right.
Everybody's been working hard to build this department to where it is.
President Walters, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't think we keep secrets in this fire company. I think we're pretty open, short of a personnel matter here or there that may come up. We were very open with the membership with regards to the convention itself, because that was a 5-year process, started in 2016. I met with the board, and the board said, yeah, let's go for it. And then we went to the fire department membership themselves and said, do you want to host a state convention? And the fire department said yes. And then from there, we went to the township and asked for the township support on it, and they were all in support of it. So, and then when it came to the merger, we would bring up at all of our monthly meetings, hey, at some point in time, we're going to be looking at a merger for various reasons, and we would explain, the reasons. Could be, help during the day, or a specialty, or financial, whatever the reason may be. And we were just very forthcoming with the staff, so I think, short of a personnel matter, you're basically looking at no secrets. We're open with where we want to go, and people seem to buy into it, because they know what's going on.
Awesome. Vice President Miles, what do you think you're doing to keep your people engaged and motivated?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. I think we kind of look at the individuals and their background and their capability. I mean, if you look at the 3 of us here, other than Tom, who probably was Ben Franklin's neighbor, to be honest, and helped him build his, first leather bucket. But we all come from a background of I'll say some struggling departments, so we know what the issues have been and what they were, what they are, and what we went through. And you see the increase in prices of equipment and apparatus and those struggles to get that, and you want to take pride in all the equipment that you have, and we stress that to our membership. Also, when you were here at the conference, you met a young lady who actually made a Class B duty skirt.
Yes.
Based on her religion.
Yes.
So we're not taking for granted their personal opinions or beliefs or anything like that. If we can incorporate that somehow to have them accepted into the organization, we're going to do that. So I think them being able to do that and see that and express that, shows pride from them, but also acceptance by the other statesmen or the leaders. And then we also get the members involved in training. It's not the officers that are always leading the training. So if you take some of the regular firefighters and have them do the drills, and they'll take pride in doing that. They'll do the research on what they want to do, and they'll run with it.
Tom, one of the things that Scott just touched on it briefly was we encourage our members to go around where there's training at other fire companies, and they come back and they say, holy smokes, I was at such and such a fire company. They barely had a room big enough to sit the people for training in, or it wasn't in as good a shape. And we try to tell everybody, you need to realize how fortunate we are, but you also need to realize that it did not happen overnight. And to keep it going, it's going to take just as much hard work to keep it going as it did to get there. And when they see that, or they go to a class and they see somebody that's got, I'll call it beat up fire gear, and they're down there in a fairly new set, of turnout gear, and they see these other departments, they come back and they say, hey, you know what? I was down at such and such a place where there's a training school, whatever. And you're right. We do have nice equipment, or we do have nice gear, or whatever the case may be. And that's one thing the three of us in this room, we encourage, because unless you've gone through it, and this is my third firehouse in Limerick. If you'd have seen what the first one was like when they tore it down in 1983, it was just an old brick building. They had a basement with dirt floor, and everything like that. And then with the building that we then went to, that was built in 1983, that we moved into in the end of 1984, and then tearing that one down in 2016, somebody doesn't have an understanding, because they come into somebody, a station that's brand new and it's got a new fire truck. They just don't understand it, and they have to get out and they have to experience that and understand where we came from.
Right. So what do? You guys are all very engaged. You have a very engaged membership, but I'm sure, right, the old saying, same circus, different clowns. I'm sure you've got those members that all of a sudden you haven't seen them come around, or they're very open with, work is killing me. I'm traveling all week long. Or Chief or President Walters, maybe you've gotten that knock on the door. Chief, I'm getting divorced, or Mr. President, I really need help. I think I'm really struggling with my kids. I'm a single parent. So they can't participate to the level that you expect. And I think part of being a professional volunteer is trying to understand that and work with those members, because obviously we can't fire them per se, like in a paid job, but I think we need to be understanding. And I think the successful departments are. So how do you handle those situations? Because every department has them, right?
Yep. So a lot of times what happens, like we had a fellow that his job was taking him up to New York City all the time. And he says, Tom, I'm going to be up there for the next 3 or 4 months straight. If I get home on a weekend, I'm lucky. And so he says, what do I do? And we just said, just ask for a leave of absence for a specific period of time. Okay. That way, missing the calls doesn't count against you in your statisticals, for the year. And that way you don't have to quit and start over again when you come back. you're just taking a leave of absence for a short period of time. Another way to do it is we've got kids that go to college. They'll go to Penn State or someplace like that, and they're going for 4 to 6 months at a time. We tell them the same thing: just take a leave of absence, and then when you're home for Christmas, come out and run with us. Because they've basically got the training that we wanted them to have, and so we don't want to lose them. Or the other thing is, we say, look, take the time you need. Maybe you go from an active firefighter just to a contributing member. Okay, that way you don't lose your membership. You're still kept abreast of everything. You have access to the website or the members only section of the website. So you can see what's specifically going on with the fire department. But you can't make the training for whatever reason. And so we try to work it that way versus losing them altogether and say, oh, well, look, if you can't do it, basically we don't want you. And that's not what we want to do.
So just to add to this real quick, I know you want to go.
No, that's okay. That's all right.
Just to add to this, we ask every member just to be honest with their status. We work with everybody. We know something I'll tell you. We tell every member, family and work comes first. That's what pays the bills. That's really what life's all about, is their family and unfortunately their job. It's really their family. So there is a lot of family things that do cause bumps in the road. We just ask everybody to just keep us informed. We work with them. Like Tom said, give them a leave of absence, whatever it is, we work with them. But the biggest thing is we don't want to paint any kind of a picture. We have turnover. We have people that leave. We have new people that come in. So there is absolutely turnover, just like any other department. We try and minimize it as much as we can. We have new applications, probably at least 1 or 2 every month. Some of them make it, some of them don't. Some of them for contributing members, some of them for firefighters. But we have the turnover, but we ask every member to be completely honest with us, and we work with them. We forgot to mention one other retention tool we have, and just to touch on it. Several years ago, we created what's called the First Time Home Buyers Program.
Oh, yes.
So one of the things that we've learned is over the years, Tom mentioned college, and it just triggered my mind in that program, is we have kids that grow up here, they come through the junior program, they graduate high school, they go to college, they come back, and they realize they can't afford to live here. So we've actually created a program where the fire department lends them up to $20,000 in closing costs or down money. And depending on their active status, it gets repaid. It's a whole formula. Some of it gets repaid, some of it's forgiven, but it's a way for them to help find a home here locally. Since we've trained them, they've become part of the department, we do our best to keep them. So one of the things that one of our newest retention tools is it's what we call as a home buyers assistance program. So it's worked out well. We've loaned for a handful of members, not a lot yet.
Six have taken advantage of. They've been younger too.
But it's worked out well for us.
Do they have to commit to serving with you for so long as an active member?
They do. Like I said, there's a whole formula. We
Right.
take a whole show just for that program, but there's a whole formula to it that some of it gets forgiven depending on how many years of active status, and then some of it is still owed back to the department at some point in the ownership of that house.
And Tom, you talk about the difference in your membership. Okay, every membership has a truck driver, an insurance person, a police officer, whatever the case may be. This idea came to us. We wanted to do something, but we had an officer that happened also to be a real estate agent. And he says, here's how you can do this. And, basically that came from inside to help to have the real estate agent kind of help develop the program that we always wanted to do.
And I know
think of the whole topic, recruitment and retention. And as Tom said, everybody has a different background. Take advantage of your membership's background. That's what you got to look at. What are you good at? Tom and I are both in insurance, but he does claims. I do safety risk management. Ken, well,
Ken's
we don't worry about him.
He's a business owner. He's a business owner.
Wait a minute. I ate the meal he was serving at your convention. Pretty good barbecue, if I remember correctly, wasn't it? Yeah.
Could have been. Fred was his smoked brisket or something.
Yeah. Oh, good. You know, you guys raise a good point there, taking advantage of your members' talents. Local department near me, their goal is to get out of the fund drive business. They're running 1,300 runs a year, and they're trying to, we have a nice tax base in our town, but the fund drive for us pays for the amenities that the tax money can't be used for.
Right,
So a
right.
neighboring department came up with this idea, where they have purchased homes, remodeled them, and then rent them out. And they've done it twice, and they're looking to get a third one. And when they get the third one, they think they're going to be out of the fund drive business. That's going to take care of all the extra money they need.
That's good. One of the things, just to dovetail on that, the township supervisor said to us, they didn't want us to get out of the fundraising business because it also keeps us in the community.
Right.
But they said, pick and choose the ones where you get the biggest bang for your buck. So like we got out of the weekly bingo, okay? But we kept our annual golf outing. It's basically a one-day event that makes a pretty decent piece of coin for us, okay? And we're doing, we're doing the carnival and our comedy night's one night. And then if we do this hayride of horrors, it could be two or three nights right before Halloween. But so that got us out of the weekly stuff, and we probably reduced it by what, 3/4?
Yeah, but getting out of the fundraising business also means you're not bringing the residents into the station or getting them exposure to the fire department, which could result in less members.
Right. There's probably they're still going to do an open house, and they do other community activities, I guess. So they're still going to be engaged with the community, but
back to our retention, we pay for all of our own retention. It's not part of the township budget.
Gotcha.
So we have to raise money because we probably spend $125,000 a year just in retention alone. The LoSAP program alone costs us $70,000 this year.
Right.
So that's stuff that we raise money for our members. It pays for our Christmas party. It pays for our contribution to the VIP. There's lots of things that we do. So, and again, but it's also builds that self-pride. We raise money, we do things with it. We also purchase our smaller apparatus, our chief's truck or command truck,
field truck.
Pieces.
We buy all that ourselves. The only thing that's part of the capital purchase program are the large pieces of apparatus. So we have a lot of money that we raise. We have a lot of money that we spend. And we have two big budgets that we balance. But the biggest thing is our members are 100% engaged and involved in all of that.
And as the president said earlier, ownership, it creates that sense of ownership.
Yep, definitely.
Definitely some excellent points there. And guys, we've been talking for quite a while on these three very important areas, be it recruitment and retention and membership engagement and communicating with our members and respecting our members and retaining our members. I'm sure there may be some questions the listeners have. So if you wouldn't mind, as we finish up here, I'll go around the table, and we'll start with you, Chief. Again, Chief Ken Schuler, thank you for your time. If you want to finish up with any final thoughts, and then also provide your email address, if you would, or your best contact info, if anybody had questions and wanted to get a hold of you.
So as I'll tell you, first of all, thanks for taking the time. I think the recruitment and retention, especially in the volunteer service, is huge. Many years ago, St. Joe's did a study about the volunteer service in the Tri-County area, and I'm going back probably 15 or better years ago, 20 years ago.
Before 2009, I know
So
that.
St. Joe's did a study about the cost of what a community would spend for a paid service versus volunteer. So we know in Limerick Township, at the time, it was slated to be around $4 million, say. It was like 3.5 to 5 million or some number they used, some spread. Right now, our fire tax generates about $600,000 or $700,000 in tax money a year. And that we also pay for our hydrant rental out of that, and the rest goes to the fire service. We know neighboring towns that spend millions of dollars a year in fire protection. So we're very proud of what we've built here in Limerick and the money that we save. The township supervisors understand what the volunteer service saves the community. So I think that's why they're very supportive of us. Recruitment and retention is huge. Without it, you're gonna wind up in a paid environment. We know the paid environment is coming. We know it's going to get here at some point. We know some kind of a combination of some fashion will happen here, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15, whatever it is. The problem is once you start that process of a combination department, Tom looks at Scott and says, they're paying him. Why should I come out, right? Why should I volunteer? It's just that it's that trickle down effect, and it eventually it just overruns the department. So we know once it starts, it starts. So we're very proud of what we built here. The membership has built it. It's not like just any of us have done it, but the membership works hard, and I mean they truly work hard for it. So if there's anything that we can help with, we'd be glad to do it. The easiest thing for any of us, like president at LFD 51 or chief at LFD 51, or
S Miles at
or S Miles. I mean, you could use our name, K Schuler, S Miles, or T Walters at LFD51.org.
Yeah.
It gets to all of us. But our youth fire camp has just been huge as an example. We have a lot of response from around the country, people asking us about our youth camp. So there's lots of ideas, and we'll be glad to share them with anybody, even though we did run through it pretty quick. Like I said, my recommendation would be to jump on our website, look at the pictures, see some of the things we do. We have a strong training program every week. I think that's another big retention part as well. People come out, they train hard. We have a lot of calls, which helps a lot. We do a lot of rescue here in the township. For several years straight, we were the highest rescue company in the county with confirmed rescues. So it hasn't been lately, just things change, but we do a lot of work here, and we're proud of the work that we do, and we're also proud that the other companies around us look at us as a company that's going to come, like I said, with certified firefighters and trained people. I mean, that's how we built the company, and that's how we show up in the door.
And it sounds great that three of you are all on the same page, three big leaders in the department. President Walters, what would you like to add to that?
I think, Tom, you just brought up a good point. We don't agree 100% of the time, but we're absolutely on the same page when it comes to furthering the department. And you've got to be able to put your pride aside, your personal pride aside sometimes to do something. And one of the things we've been able to do is, as president, I appoint the various committees. So we have a truck committee, and back in 2016, 2017, when we ordered our tower, Ken said to me, "Hey, Tom, why don't we let some of the younger guys, just sit in on it? They're not necessarily part of the committee, but they can sit in on it, and they can see what goes on at a truck committee." And now, 3 or 4 truck committees later, we've got a chairman of our committee to purchase a new engine, and he's less than 30 years old. Now we've got somebody like myself or our chief engineer, who've run these different committees, but we've basically got a 28-year-old as chairman of our truck committee, and we've got, I'll call it 2 youngsters, a middle age, and some old fogies, so to speak, on it, and we're letting him run with it, based upon the officer's recommendations, and it definitely buys into ownership of the department.
So something we didn't answer though for you, Tom, is our median age.
Yes, thank you for reminding me of that.
I'll answer that for him. My guess, I'd have to sit down and look at it. My guess is going to be between 38 and 40.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
Between all the recruitment programs we have, and retention, and the membership we've had that we've picked up from other areas and stuff, we have a lot of young members that are involved, and we have a lot of older members that have stayed and still are working hard. I'm going to guess between 38 and 40.
Which is good. The studies.
Great. No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's a good number for demographics if you look at it for volunteer services.
The studies show we lose a lot of members in their early 30s to mid to 30s, because that's when they start getting that second or third promotion at work, or they take that new job, and then their kids are now in travel sports or whatever it is. So that's a good. You guys are doing something, some good things there. Vice President Miles, or Lieutenant, however you want to be referred to. Any last?
Scott's good. I go by Scott. That's all right. Kind of piggyback on what everybody else has said. Really, I mean, we try to look at the members themselves and see what they're asking for. We're not just going to be, hey, it's going to be our way or the highway. If they have a different idea, they want to approach the department and looking at, take a look at it. Have them come up and present it. It's their idea. Don't be afraid to listen to other ideas. I mean, we diversify on the committee so much. Take those ideas, and actually review them. Give the memberships the opportunity to say their voice of what they think, a new direction that they'd like to go look at. I mean, Ken, you tie back on the water team. I mean, I've been involved in water rescue since I moved here back in Pennsylvania. So, it's just how this team has evolved is awesome. And it's getting fairly well known in the neighboring municipality, which is great. And we also give our members the opportunity to go to outside trainings and give them that pride to go to different things. We've had people go out to Colorado, down to Texas A&M, out to FDIC,
Down in Louisiana.
If they find something that they're interested in, bring it back to the company. We'll see what we can afford, see how many members we could go. And we'll select those. If certain criteria has to be met, we'll come up with that, but we'll give them the opportunity to go elsewhere to seek training and to come back and present what they found out.
All good stuff. And I like what you said. I think it was you, Chief, that said earlier, or maybe it was you, President Walters, the town wants to keep you volunteer. And I was thinking there's a subject for another day that I'm going to have you on a couple of times, because we're definitely going to talk about the merger. And I was thinking it might be good to talk about how you went to the town, the town leaders in your area to talk about how they could support you, because as you said, they want to keep you volunteer. They know how important it is to keep about the volunteer fire department going strong. So, and again, if our listeners, you want to check out a good website, you want to see what they're doing, lfd51.org is one of the better websites that I've ever seen. So thank you so very much for being here tonight. Talking about recruitment, talking about retention, talking about engaging our members. If our listeners, in a nutshell, have a recruitment and retention committee that meets on a regular basis, consider a multitude of ideas that were discussed here, and I'm sure you can think of many others. What works in your area. Number one, though, get engaged with the community. Be out in the community. If there's a career day at the school, go to that career day, because you can be a career volunteer firefighter, right? Reach out to the gentleman here to talk about their cadet camp. Consider junior programs. Love the idea of considering a welcome basket for new members. Just so many ideas about recruiting new members. And then when you get them, keep them engaged. A lot of tasks to be done in the volunteer fire service. It's been said many times, it's like running a business. Chief, you would know that, right? You're running a couple of businesses, right? Spread the work out, get people engaged. It creates ownership. Whatever you can do for your members, be it insurance policies, a decent physical. I've said for years, the better physical you can give them, do it, because for many members, especially the younger members, it's really the only physical exam they're getting. Consider volunteer incentive programs. It maybe doesn't have to be monetary. I know departments in my area, because we can't give out stipends, they will give out clothing and things like that. Involve the families too. Don't forget about those families. And then just treat everyone with respect. Understand that everyone has something on their plate. Take advantage of what they can offer, and understand when they're maybe not being able to offer what your expectations are due to some life event. And treat everybody with respect. So, gentlemen, thank you so much to Chief Ken Schuler, President Tom Walters, and Vice President Scott Miles. Thank you, number one, for inviting me out to your conference back in September. Still talk about the great time I had there meeting you. And just every time I come home and my wife says, how was the conference? Because I'm always nervous when I leave. I come home and say the same thing. I made 100 new friends. Definitely the case. Definitely the case with the great host at the Limerick Fire Department. So, gentlemen, thank you so very much. I'm glad we were able to make the time. I know this isn't going to be our last podcast. So thanks for being here this evening. And folks, as I wrap up again, if anybody wants to reach out to me, please email me at tamerrill63@aol.com. Check out any of my social media sites, Facebook page, the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. And as I mentioned at the beginning, in the intro, my new website is up and live, the PVFD.com. Here's the deal. You type in the Professional Volunteer Fire Department.com. It'll take you to the website, but to make it short, it's the PVFD.com for the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. The website is up and live. It's got a link to all my articles, all the podcast presentations that I offer, where I'm going to be traveling to. There's a lot of good information on there, so please check it out. As always, thank you to my fire engineering family and Chief Bobby Halton and Clarion Events for supporting all the fire engineering podcasts, not just mine, but all the other great ones as well. And I remain committed to all of you to continue to focus on topics of relevance and importance to the volunteer fire service. Thanks again to my guests from the Limerick Fire Department. They are definitely professional volunteer firefighters serving in a professional volunteer fire department. My next show will be Tuesday, June 14th. Thanks for listening in. Stay safe. And folks, please remember, true professionalism is not defined by a paycheck, and your residents are owed professional service delivered by professional firefighters representing a professional organization. It's that simple, folks. Take care. Thank you.